the Saudis and you say knock it off. You're going to keep on using the dollar for the petrodollar. You save OPEC, which will increase the dollar's strength as a world reserve currency. And then you have to go after the CCP in like a 15-point targeted plan. You pull their visas from being able to go to Europe. You put targeted sanctions on them. There's again, I'm not exactly saying anything that hasn't been thought through really serious scholars, but we have to have a serious plan to punish the CCP for what they did with the virus, covering it up and lying about it, and then also their hyper-aggressive action with Belt and Road, cyber warfare, infiltrating the American economy. Some of that comes with a price and a cost, but then more than anything else, Trump, if he becomes president again, will be energy independent again. There'll be economic confidence restored. I think that we'll see inflation put under control because we'll actually have a rebirth of market stability. Right now, people are confused. They're uncertain. They're
This is not lost on Donald J. Trump, and Taiwan will not happen that way. Taiwan won't happen that way. And they know it. And they know it.
Portuguese name.
Yeah, my question to Charlie is this. I'm glad you brought up the acronym BRIC, which I think has now been updated to BRICS, because Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now South Africa is now the latest component of that. The mighty power of South Africa. All facetious is right there.
I don't mean to make fun of South Africa. It's not exactly a world power.
Hey, Elon Musk is very upset when he hears you commenting on the state of the country.
I think you would agree.
It's an African American. Here's my question. I don't think there was anything. Like, China was going to do this regardless. We know that they've been trying to come after the American superpower, and that's just what's on their agenda, China 2030. Russia was never going to cozy up to America. They were always going to be aligned with China in some regard. My question is, India. I don't think China and India are aligned.
What's that all about?
He was putting a lot of different. He was trying to kind of create some form of a jab against the CCP. The problem right now is the CCP is able to run undeterred right now. There is no counterbalance from America. So, I mean, look, for example, if we had an actual regime that cared about saving America, like, okay, China, you're going down to Brazil to go do a new deal, 15% export now tariff immediately on pick your product. Just make them feel it a little bit of, make them think twice. So there's no cost to it. And look, China has a lot of domestic problems. They have hundreds of millions of people living in legitimate third world poverty. Despite the appearance that Xi Jinping puts on like he's the most popular leader ever, there's legitimate dissent against the CCP. The CCP is run by a group of mobsters and thugs with no more than 5% of popular support. And so they got their own ticking time bomb. They have ghost cities, they manipulate their currency, they have bank runs that happen far too often, they suppress a lot of the news there, they're not a free society, they think they can kind of do this Marxist Orwellian digital surveillance state. I actually think that's unsustainable. I think it's going to break eventually. I could be wrong. And so China likes to posture as this really strong man. we could destabilize the Chinese Communist Party in 9 months with a proper president. The question is, do we want to? The only question then is, why don't we? It's because they've captured our elites. And they call it elite capture in actually Mandarin. They have purchased the head of the NBA. They've
real enough for mom or grandma.
If you're new, welcome. I haven't seen anything interesting at all today. Oh, who am I kidding? When you research this topic,
Donald Trump is... Prototype inside this box was flown and hand-delivered to me by ASUS. And I can tell to be a point of no return. And you would think the media would...
The Orange Menace is back in NYC. Former President Donald Trump is in Trump Tower as he awaits his arraignment.
It's everything that I have for news, Fox News. I just find that very interesting. That news is only Fox News
every interview's the same.
on
If they
YouTube.
like you, they treat you like Biden.
Auto. Right now in Africa, there is something going on that's making the local residents sad, but is making scientists excited. The continent.
Let's get right into it. Now, look, I'm not...
And there's more than that. In tech too, but not even as much as Hollywood, banking, and sports.
The fact that we're being apologetic to them, like, hey, we're so sorry, what can we do to make you happy? And you can easily, and America helped China become who they are today with the relationships over the years.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interject, but without us giving them favored nation status, without the 1999 World Trade Organization Treaty, they are a third world country, period. And we basically said, okay, we're going to re-domicile our manufacturing assets, we're going to close down our ability to make stuff, and we're going to do this massive labor arbitrage where we're going to send all the jobs to you, and we get a bunch of plastic we do not need in return. And the robber barons that made those deals, and I don't say that lightly because I'm a capitalist, but it was bad for the West, designed this entire thing. But when you have a relaxed monetary currency, which we do, it necessitates neoliberalism.
Who were the architects of the deal in 1999?
Well, Bill Clinton signed it, but it was largely driven by consultants. McKinsey & Company was the largest company that was basically pushing, the kind of idea that we're going to go to a company and say we'll be able to solve. You see right there, McKinsey & Company, and right there. What was that, 2019? Yep. And we're going to go in, we'll save you, pennies on a dollar. You can make this trinket in China for this. Even this tie right here is made in China. I was like wearing it earlier. Are you kidding me? Why can't we make this here? Because we want to try to get the lowest cost. And for certain products, it made sense. But why do we make penicillin and vitamin C? 90% of all our vitamin C comes from China. That makes no sense. And so we offshored our critical infrastructure to a country that seemed to be kind of a passive country, and it's now turned into our greatest enemy.
And what do we gain from that? Just lower prices when you go to Walmart?
I'll tell you what we've gained. Our homes are twice as big as they were in the 1950s, with twice as much garbage that we do not use, and they're half filled. They're twice as empty because we have less kits. So we have piles of plastic we do not use, and factories that are empty, and then in return we fill our entire communities with fentanyl made by the Chinese Communist Party, pumped through by the Sinaloa drug cartel, and we lose 107,000 people a year to drug overdoses.
Yeah, we'll take it another step closer to home, and I'm teaching people new words today, Pat. Maquiladora. Maquiladora means little sister. Maquiladora was the concept of putting a small factory in Mexico where the labor was cheaper and products could be made, and then they would take a very short walk to the United States.
Yep.
So if that WTO deal doesn't happen in favor of China, it would have turned Mexico into the larger manufacturing power.
Exactly
and
right.
what would have happened to the Mexican economy? You would have had the eruption, the good eruption of the middle class in Mexico. And you can trace it right back to the issues that we have in Mexico, to the gang-style violence.
I want markets to point towards something virtuous and good, and not every deal you do is going to always be in that proper context. The Chinese Communist Party deal is a bad deal, and the people that defend it, it's indefensible. I mean, what we have as a casualty is we have become more in like an owned and operated colony, the CCP. It's breakable. It's breakable for many reasons, because we still have a free society and they don't. The fact we have somewhat of a free society is our great competitive advantage. That right there is how we beat them. If you unshackle the American entrepreneur, we run circles around these people, because you cannot possibly quantify or measure 20 or 30 million free people taking risks. That will beat a CCP oligarch every day. That's a planned economy. Now they have a mixed economy, but they still are not figuring out entrepreneurship there, because they have to control, they have to confiscate wealth.
It's still fear-based.
It's still fear-based. A true free society economically could destroy these guys in a decade.
And what you don't realize is you're seeing a reflection of 1950s and 60s Soviet Union, where they tried to put in place these 5-year economic plans centered around crop plans and agriculture. And we're going to export to Europe, and that's where we're going to get our power out of it. And they had a couple things. They had uranium, they had limited LNC because of the extraction that they were going at that time, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? That is exactly what you're seeing happen here. Is these limited economic plans that are based on control of the populace, the labor force, are not working for China just the same way they didn't work for the Soviet Union.
Can I ask you a question, Pat? Because I know this is something that's near and dear in your heart. Obviously, you know, entrepreneurship, capitalism, the backbone of what valuetainment is all about. You've interviewed, whether it's General Robert Spalding, countless people that, what's the one gentleman that you've had multiple times? He's an expert in China relations.
Gordon Chen.
Gordon Chen, correct.
He's excellent.
So when you say that China is fear-based, and Charlie corrected out, you have 20, 30 million entrepreneurs here in America that can spur American exceptionalism again.
Great economic.
Where do you when you say fear-based for China versus?
I'll give you a perfect example. Yeah. So if I go to TSA pre to get my TSA pre card, you're in fear, because you're dealing with a government organization. Customer service is non-existent. The lady's talking to me as if I work for her. I told you to be here 15 minutes ago. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm driving off the... Are you serious? I said, yes. I told you. I'm like, wow. Then go to Clear. You go to Clear. You know how they'll talk to you? Oh my God, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for this, and thank you for that, about a bottle of water. So Clear will give you customer service because they want your business. TSA pre knows you don't have a choice. You best respect us, right? Fear, free. TSA fear, Clear, the free. America is free, still. China is fear. You're afraid walking around. You got to make that guy happy, this guy happy, that guy happy, this guy happy. It's all about that. This is why by the way, earlier question I asked of you guys, and I asked Charlie, Kim, you can just bring it up. Earlier question I asked of Charlie, I said, what would happen to America today if Elon doesn't buy Twitter if Spotify drops Rogan, let's say, and a Rumble isn't there, what would happen? Entrepreneurs are going to fix 95% of the world's problems. Because in climates like this, you don't think YouTube in their board meetings are talking about Rumble right now? What do you think they're talking about? You don't think Facebook and YouTube and all those guys are sitting there pissed off at Elon for allowing freedom of speech? You don't think YouTube and all the Silicon Valley people are not pissed off at Sweden? Daniel, for not dropping Rogan? How dare you not drop Rogan? How dare you not drop Rogan? Capitalists expose bad arguments, and that's what's happening right now. So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.
That's better.
Let's get right into it. Now, look, I know everybody want to talk about Trump, but first, let's talk about the opposite of Trump. Women's basketball. Last night, the LSU Lady Tigers beat Iowa in a tournament that had record-breaking viewership, but it wasn't just who won the game that left people talking.
Controversy following last night's game after LSU sophomore Angel Reese taunted Iowa star Caitlin Clark. Commentators and fans online calling Reese disrespectful and unclassy. But Reese pointed out that no one cared when Clark had made the same gesture in a previous game.
Oh!
Thank you for joining me for episode 15 of my...
Donald Trump is...
What do you see in this photo? Just a bunch of spotlights converging on a single point in the sky. What are they shining on? Is there anything there? Would your opinion change if I told you it was from a possible World War II battle that unfolded above U.S. soil? Between February 24th and the 25th of 1942, a state of panic seized Los Angeles, California for 12 hours, from 7:18 the night before to 7:21 the next morning. Most of the population, including military personnel, believed that an aerial assault force had launched an attack over America's largest West Coast city. When the smoke cleared, more than 1,400 anti-aircraft shells had been fired, leaving several vehicles and buildings damaged by their fragments. The fighting also cost 5 civilians their lives. 3 died in automobile accidents, 2 from cardiac arrest. The whole event became known as the infamous Los Angeles Air Raid, or more popularly, the Battle of Los Angeles. And to this day, no one has ever definitively explained what everybody was firing at in the sky. Now, earlier that day, the Office of Naval Intelligence issued a warning suggesting that a Japanese attack on the continental United States was imminent, when strange lights appeared above sensitive locations the evening of February 24th. Authorities raised the initial alert, but it was lifted at 10:23 p.m. Everyone showed only a few hours of peace, however, and around 2 in the morning on February 25th, several radar picked up an unidentified object above the Pacific, about 120 miles from making landfall in Los Angeles. Personnel tracked it until it came within several miles of the coast. Air raid sirens began blaring at 2:25 a.m., setting wardens to their post amidst a citywide blackout. 51 minutes later, gunners with the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade spotted something in the air, and believing that they had made contact with the enemy, unleashed 12.8-pound anti-aircraft shells and 50 caliber machine gun rounds into the sky. Other units followed suit. Everyone involved was convinced that enemy aircraft were invading U.S. airspace, ready to launch an attack. The firing continued on and off until 4:14. And by 7:21, the blackout order was lifted and the military issued an all-clear signal. Despite the bombardment, no enemy artillery dropped from the sky, nor was a single aircraft downed, at least not officially. Historically speaking, this reaction was understandable. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor took